faithful loyal YouTube subscribers. Today is Monday. It is April 13th, the year 2020. We're still locked in the coronavirus pandemic. I saw an article out of what was the CNN, where in China the Africans in Guangzhou, well, it's a city over in Africa. They're being left homeless. As Chinese citizens are evicting them from apartments they've paid for, not allowing them to stay in hotels. They feel like these Africans have the coronavirus, and they're being evicted by landlords and turned away from hotels, despite many of these Africans claiming to have no recent travel history or known contact with COVID-19 patients, and many of them have tested negative, but they're still being forced to subject to random testing and being quarantined for 14 days in their homes despite having no symptoms or contacts with known patients. But we've known for years that the Chinese are very racist in that country. You got to go far. You can go right up the street here in America and see a bunch of Chinese people. I had to cuss one out of this Chinese restaurant I went into a while ago. In there, ordered some food, went to use the bathroom. She followed me to the bathroom. I turned around and proceeded to cuss her the fuck out in her language. So we have to understand something. We live in a world where we got some crazy people out here. And it's unfortunate these Africans moved to China to work. Many of them are professionals, educated, and they're working for various companies. As you all know, China has moved aggressively into Africa, investing in the country. They call it an investment. It's just crazy. Guangzhou has long had the largest African American community in China. Because many Africans in the city have short-term business visas, they travel into China several times a year, making it difficult to calculate the size of the African population in the city. But in 2017, approximately 320,000 Africans entered or left China through Guangzhou. African residents say local hostility to their presence is nothing new. But when coronavirus cases emerged in the African community this month, it served to amplify existing tensions. A report on April the 4th alleged that a Nigerian national with COVID-19 had attacked a Chinese nurse who tried to stop him from leaving an isolation ward at a hospital. The report was shared widely on social media, and local Africans CNN spoke to say a racist backlash against the African community followed. Then on April 7th, authorities say 5 Nigerians had tested positive for COVID-19. See, China's still dealing with this issue, and they've been lying to everybody, saying that they have it under control, which is false. Fearing a cluster among the African community, authorities upgraded the risk level to the areas home to the city's 2 African enclaves from low to medium. But in the meanwhile, they've been evicted from their homes, having to sleep on the street. They've had to live in the street. They can't even get a check into a hotel. One of the guys, he was in a hotel when he was released. Okay, so on March 21st, Nigerian goods trader Chuck, who did not want to use his full name for fear of government reprisals, flew back to Guangzhou, his home. He's been living there since 2009. With China's coronavirus cases seemingly under control, he wanted to resume his trading business, which had been stymied by the pandemic. The area around Guangzhou is a manufacturing heartland where many Africans buy cheap goods to sell back home. Trying to make a bunch of cheap shit. They go over there, buy the stuff cheap, and then take it back home and sell it in Nigeria. Import, export. Same thing people do all over the world. Chuck returned 7 days before China closed its borders to most foreign nationals. But upon arrival, he was told that he needed to enter government quarantine at a hotel for 2 weeks that he had to pay for. As a trader, Chuck travels frequently and is accustomed to staying in hotels during his time in China. Well, on Tuesday, Chuck says that when he was released after he did his 14-day quarantine along with 15 other Africans with a clean bill of health, they effectively became homeless. We went to the hotel with the certificate, but we were rejected. The group went to the police station to report the hotels were refusing to let Africans stay, but they refused to talk to us. So CNN, this is all on CNN, you can read the report. It's very interesting. And you can see Africans being arrested, harassed, sleeping on the streets. There were images of a row of Africans sleeping on the streets with their luggage, having been evicted from their apartments or turned away from hotels. Some were literally evicted from their apartments, even though they had. When we read this on Wednesday, Nigerian trader Nonzo, whose name has been changed to protect his identity, says he and his girlfriend received a message from their landlord at 7 p.m. on WeChat, a Chinese messaging app, saying that they needed to vacate their flat by 8 p.m. I told him I can't vacate in 1 hour. He pays $212 a month for his apartment, and he has lived in China for 3 years. At 10 p.m., he says the landlord came to the flat, cut off the electricity and water supply. I asked, what did I do? I've paid rent until September with 2 months deposit. They didn't give me any reason. So his rent is paid up through September. We're now in April? April. Now he called the police to let them return and remain in the apartment for the night. But in the morning, the landlord returned with a different police officer who said he had to leave. And he said he has struggled to find an apartment to rent. We have contacted a lot of agents, and none of them are leasing to black foreigners. So in China, it's just a lot of them are probably going to have to head back to Nigeria or the country that they're from. It's pretty sad. But you'd be expected from a place like China where the coronavirus got started because they were eating bats. That's how it got started. In a wet market. I was going to post a video of a wet market that they have in China. There's a wet market. And I saw this video of how them Chinese had it. It was filthy. I was like, I couldn't believe it, that they were eating those bats. They had the bats stacked up and there were flies all over the place and animals everywhere. It was just filthy. And I'm thinking, well, who would eat that mess? But they were eating bats. Purchasing them at these wet markets. First off, I remember years and years ago, I think I told y'all this story. I had this house up in Buckhead, and we had a bat problem. At nighttime, bats would fly around the pool. Sometimes they would drink water at the pool because I look out the window at nighttime. I would see them sipping on water in the pool. So I called an exterminator. I said, there's a lot of bats. I said, okay, somebody right here. Are the bats in the attic? Where are they? I would go up in the attic and look and see if I could see a big, massive attic. But I didn't see anything inside the attic. Or maybe they were hanging around the soffit around the house. Anyway, I called an exterminator. I said, look, I got a problem with bats. He said, we don't deal with bats. He's like, you're not supposed to just leave them alone. I told him what was going on. He said, just leave them alone. He's like, don't go near them unless they're in your home or something like that. So when they're not in the house, I can't see them. He said, don't worry about them. Just let them leave. Don't go near those bats. And I stayed far away from them. And he said, we don't even handle bats. You'd have to call a special something. I was like, okay. So this was years ago. So it makes you wonder, what made the Chinese think that it made sense to go into caves, collect bats, and eat them? Who would want to eat a bat? But they're blaming the Africans in China. It's a very good article. I'm going to put the link to the article. It's on CNN. And you could read about it, but it's kind of sad that they're doing this to these Africans. Africans in China have long complained of racism in the form of Chinese people holding their noses as they walk past racially offensive advertising on television, and Chinese actors performing in blackface at a nationwide gala. Earlier this year, when Beijing proposed changes to its immigration laws around permanent residency, a backlash emerged on Chinese social media sites against Africans. Many of the comments have since been removed from the platform. Africans are on lockdown. In late February, a couple went on a holiday to Malaysia. This is an African couple. She returned on March 17th and said she was asked to self-isolate at home for 14 days. Her boyfriend, who was African, returned on March 25th and says he went into a government quarantine facility, paying $56 a night at a designated hotel, and emerged on Wednesday after testing negative twice. On Thursday, health officials came to the couple's flat, which was the next day, and said that Smith's partner, who did not want to be identified in this piece, would have to quarantine at home for 14 days because all Africans in the city were put on lockdown. Mind you, he just got out of a lockdown 14 days. They put him in another lockdown for 14 days. Smith says her employer, an international school, was informed on Thursday that all Africans needed to go into lockdown as it had several African employees. CNN has spoke to several other Africans who were visited by authorities on Thursday and told they needed to quarantine at home for 14 days. They say police put alarms on their front doors, which will alert officials if they leave home. There have been no public statements confirming or refuting the existence of an existing policy. So they're only going after the Africans. They're not doing this to everybody else, but just the Africans. However, Smith was told if she chose not to live in the apartment she shares with her African boyfriend, they don't say her race in this article. Maybe I missed it. Smith was told that she chose not to live in the apartment she shares with her African boyfriend, who has tested negative for the virus. She would not have to quarantine, but she couldn't stay there with him. So she couldn't live there. She would have to quarantine. Either she stayed there in quarantine or she would have to move out, but she wouldn't have to quarantine. There's resentment that a lot of Africans are perceived to be here illegally and that they overstay. And this is just an excuse to push the community out. A lot of police setting up there too inside this apartment. So, I don't know. It's very sad. It's a very good article. You have to read this. You have to read this article. It's on CNN. I'm going to put the link to the article on CNN. I hope you all had a great weekend. I just wanted to do this real short video. I just wanted to talk about what was going on in Africa. If you all don't know about it, I'm sure some of you have probably read about it. If you haven't read about it, I'm going to give you the link to the article. But I am about to cook some breakfast. So I just wanted to do a quick video. Check in with you all. I want you all to check this out. I think it's very sad, but indicative of the world that we live in. These people are crazy today. It's okay for them to eat bats. And I'm just telling the truth, y'all. They were over there eating bats. The Chinese were eating bats and other crazy shit. And now they think the Africans are the ones responsible for spreading the coronavirus. I don't know. Wow, this is sad. I'm looking at videos and I'm attacking. Go to CNN's website and check it out. There's a lot of videos and different stuff. I'm going to put the link in the description for this. I want you all to stay abreast of what's going on in the world today. Anyway, I'm out of here. We're cooking some breakfast. It's kind of late. Today is Monday. It is April 13th. The year is 2020. I'm out of here and enjoy your day. I'll be back later.